You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Now the only question is, are we going to do the show in the dark or in the light? Magic. There's a whole plethora of trailers to talk about this week. First one is The Art of Valor, which is a film that stars a bunch of Marines and incorporates real military strategy into the film. It's a fictionalized film, but it's realistic strategy in real Marines, which I think is a fairly interesting idea for a movie. And while the Marines aren't the best actors, as evidenced in the trailer, the movie does look like it might be an entertaining, pure action flick. The final trailer for the Muppets also came out this week, and I've talked ad nauseum about that movie. And you know how great I think it looks, how funny, how subversive, how witty, how fantastic and charming that thing looks, and I just don't want to say anything anymore because I feel like I'm going to have exhausted talking about that film before it even comes out. So that's all I'm going to say about the Muppets. Then we have the first Red Band trailer for American Reunion, which I haven't seen any of the American Pie movies, so I wasn't really looking forward to this one way or the other, but I have to admit, that trailer was pretty funny. And also, there's a trailer for McGee's new film, This Means War, starring Reese Witherspoon and Chris Pine and Tom Hardy, which centers on two CIA agents as they wage an epic battle against one another to win the affections of the woman played by Reese Witherspoon. I have to admit, it looks very silly and stupid, and it is directed by McGee, so we're not going to get some classic film here. But I have to admit, it looks fun, and you can't say no to a movie with Reese Witherspoon, Chris Pine, and Tom Hardy. I mean, those three are just fantastic. I love all of them, so I will definitely be seeing this movie despite the bad director, and that is all the trailers this week. Wait, why are you booing me? What? Is there one more trailer you want me to talk about? What could it be? Wait, what is it? Oh, yeah! That's right. That one. Alright, enough playing coy. The final trailer for this week is for the comic book superhero ensemble, The Avengers. And by God, when I saw this thing, my little geek heart jumped out of my chest and out of my mouth. This thing just looks unbelievable. In fact, as I'm talking about it, there's little tears coming out of my eyes. It's really hard. It's really embarrassing, but still, let's move on. This movie, the main thing that I really wanted to see from this film is the character interactions, because there's just such a great dynamic between these four characters. I might just have to make a video as to why I'm so excited for this movie, because there's just so many aspects of it that it's just going to make it such an interesting film if they do it right. And this movie it looks like it's delivering already. I love the character interactions between the various heroes. Everybody looks like they're in top form here. Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, and Mark Ruffalo all look fantastic. The action looks over the top and amazing. There are some explosions in here that when I first saw this trailer, all I pictured was Michael Bay pissing himself, just because it was unbelievable. Just the scope of this thing is just so big, and it's such an ambitious movie, and I can't wait for it. This is my most anticipated movie of next year, which is saying a lot, because The Dark Knight Rises, which is the sequel to my favorite movie of all time, is coming out next year too. But this just looks so ambitious and so amazing. I can't wait for it, but I'm going to stop geeking out now so I can actually make the rest of this video. Alright, first up in terms of news, the director for the Twilight Zone reboot has been announced, and that director is Matt Reeves, who previously did Cloverfield and Let Me In. Now, unfortunately, I am not a big fan of either of those two movies, but I do see where this choice came from, because especially in Let Me In, this guy did demonstrate some really first-rate craftsmanship, and he set up this great sense of ambiance and just darkness in Let Me In. Like, that movie felt foreboding. It really did. It's just I didn't find the story to be terribly interesting. But this guy's sense of atmosphere is in the right place to direct something like The Twilight Zone, which obviously is the king of atmosphere. So, not a horrible choice, just not a guy who I've seen not a director who I've liked many movies from. Moving on. In other Avengers-related news, Thor 2 has landed a director in Monster Helmer Patty Jenkins, as well as a release date in November 2013. Now, I find this director choice and this release date very intriguing because November is a time for more character-driven movies, and I feel like this director not only comes from a background of that, but I feel like they've moved this movie's release date because her approach is going to be much more emotionally rooted. And I would adore that in a Thor movie because it is already rooted in such a Shakespearean era and such a Shakespearean sensibility that someone who would be able to tap into that, even more so than Kenneth Branagh was able to do, would be able to make a fantastic movie. And I feel like Thor 2 might even be just that. So now I'm even more excited for Thor 2 than I already was. Some major action sequels got some updates this week. First off, Die Hard 5 is now going to be titled A Good Day to Die Hard. Dear God, that is an awful title. But anyways, it's going to center on John McClane and his son taking down a terrorist cell in Russia. Now, I don't think this is a horrible idea, just because all of the Die Hard movies are about John McClane taking the terrorists down on his own turf, America. And now he's going to be on the terrorist turf, which I feel could provide, it could be an interesting twist. But other than that, I'm really worried about the whole father-son thing because I'm still scarred from Indy 4. But it really does depend on the actor they choose to be his son, and names are being thrown around like Paul Walker, Ben Foster, and Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, which are mixed choices. A couple of them are good, a couple of them are awful. I'm pretty sure you can pick those out for yourself. And also, Taken 2, we now know what the plot's going to be. It's going to center on Brian Mills, played by Liam Neeson, and his wife, who themselves get kidnapped by a kidnapper who is the father of one of the kidnappers from the first movie, and he has to kind of work his way out of the situation with the help of his daughter, which I'm not sure how that's going to work out. It sounds a little silly, but... And it doesn't help that the director of Columbiana and Transporter 3 is doing it, so I'm not terribly optimistic about Taken 2. But at the same time, it is the sequel to one of the best action movies of the last 10 years, so I am willing to cut it some slack. A Good Day to Die Hard comes out in Valentine's Day 2013, and Taken 2 will be released October 2012. And finally, in a very wise decision by Universal Studios, they have decided not to release the film Tower Heist on video on demand for $60 a piece 3 weeks after the movie comes out. Not only because it's an incredibly inane idea that no one in their right mind would pay for, right? But one of the major movie theater chains threatened not to show the film in theaters at all if this plan were to go through. And believe me, this movie looks so bad, it needs all the help it can get. And that's This Week in Film in a nutshell. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel. If you already did, thanks for your support. And until next time, I'm Movie Kid Mike, making sure your time is worth your money.